So what I'd like to take a look at is creating a hinge or pendulum. So just some basics going through this. I'm going to delete the camera so I don't see or accidentally select it. And I deleted the lamp. So what we're going to do here, we're going to take this almighty cube and we're going to stretch this upward. So this is going to be our swinging pendulum. We're also going to add another cube, and this will be our pivot point. So we have a pivot point, and then the pendulum's going to swing back and forth. We also need to add what's called an empty with arrows, and we're going to move this up here. So I'm going to resize this so you can see this. So when we work with this, the axis of rotation is actually going to be the z-axis. So right now, this pendulum doesn't look like it's going to rotate correctly because it's kind of the axis is wrong. So we need to change this axis of rotation, and I'm just going to rotate this in the y direction 90 degrees. So what we have here now is this pendulum is going to swing back and forth. So it's going to swing in this direction. So swing in this direction, which is the axis of rotation. So once we have those three things in place, we got three things to worry about. We are going to now start adding physics to this. Let me move me out of the way. So we're going to add a rigid body to the pivot. And because this is going to be static, we're going to turn off dynamic. So this is not going to move. I didn't make it passive. It's still active. And convex hull will work with a cube, but if you're using other shapes, you may want to use a mesh. The pendulum is just going to be active. We're not going to change anything unless the pendulum had an odd shape to it. We change that to a mesh. And now for the black magic stuff, we're going to use this rigid body constraint. We're going to change this to what's called a hinge. And we select two options. So the first option is what is the item that is rotating, and that would be the first cube. And then the second would be what is the pivot point. And I probably should have named these along the way to make this a little easier to see. So this is my pendulum, and this would be my pivot. So when we come back to the physics on this empty, you can see that, maybe we can see that on the rigid body constraint, the pendulum is what's swinging and the pivot is what is stationary. Now, this doesn't do anything yet. Okay. And the reason why, it's hanging perfectly straight downward. So obviously it doesn't have a starting space, so we may want to tilt it so it starts swinging. So I'm going to slowly rotate this. It looks like in the X direction. Maybe move it over a little bit so it's underneath the pivot point. And now you should be able to see this pendulum swinging. So this is an element in your dominoes. Hope this helped. I'm going to make another one that is a little bit more complex next. So this is just the basics. You need three items: a pivot, a pendulum, an empty. You take that empty, make sure that the axis of rotation is where you want it. This has physics that has dynamic turned off. This has physics that has it on by default. And then you make a rigid body constraint. Make sure you change the hinge and select the objects, the first being what's moving and the second being what's stationary. Hope this helps. Bye.